Hello and welcome to From the Heart. I'm a heart parent and your host, Sami Glastonbury. Today I'm chatting to Mahan. Mahan is an adult living with CoHD. Mahan's going to share her journey with us tonight through many surgeries, pacemakers and Fontan. And this has really equipped her with a wealth of experience in managing and navigating CoHD as an adult. So I'm sure you're going to all take a lot from this podcast.
It was never an issue or concern for me, but I have a medical condition, yet alone a heart condition. My parents, even though they did tell me that I'm special, I'm unique, and I was born with such a different heart anatomy, I guess, but they never made me feel that I was completely different for the rest of my peers or people around me who were the same age as me. It never really stood out for me in a sense.
Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we record. Today we are recording on country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains. We pay our respects to elders past and present who are a part of the world's oldest continuing culture and our first storytellers. We acknowledge the importance of supporting health for all peoples now and in the future. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander listeners should be aware that this podcast may contain images, voices and names of deceased persons. So, a very warm welcome to you, Mahan. Where are you joining us from?
Thank you, Sami. Thanks for having me. I am Sydney-based. I live in Sydney, and I've lived and grew up in Sydney for the majority of my life. And I will go through the background as the question progresses. Oh my gosh, sorry. Yes.
No, you're fine. I can understand, and for people listening, they'll understand you explaining yourself from where you live now, because your journey and your story takes us across not just countries, but continents.
Correct.
We can just kick straight off, Mahan, and by saying, so walk us through your journey with congenital heart disease and your condition, but also to when you were diagnosed.
Of course.
And I should actually say, and where you were diagnosed, what country?
I was born in Iran. Both my parents are Iranian. I was born there. When at the time of birth, I wasn't diagnosed sick, or there was not really a significant symptom that I guess doctors or parents were aware during the time that I was born, because I'm 80s or born in the 80s. And in Iran, during that time, not being very medically or modern science, oh my gosh.
Yeah, like
equipped. Yes, yeah. Exactly. But my mom had a gut feeling that there was something was not right with me. She did mention that I used to cry quite a lot and I was blue or purple baby. And she would often talk to my grandma and say, oh, what's wrong with this baby? Like, why is she like this? And obviously they didn't have the knowledge back in those times. So I think somewhere between 4 weeks to 6 weeks old, my mom just took me to a new pediatric doctor that wanted to get some answers or wasn't sure what was going on. And again, the pediatric doctor didn't know what the condition was or what to actually look out for. But his best advice to my mom or my parents were that for best survival chance of getting her diagnosed would be to take her overseas, somewhere with where technology and then modern medicine is quite advanced, or at least they'll have some cases aware of these symptoms so she can be properly diagnosed. But obviously there were no guarantees that that would be the case, even if they took me overseas.
Wow, that's full on for your parents. So your mum's going, oh my gosh, something's not right with my baby. And she goes to a doctor and the doctor says, sorry, can't help. You need to get on a plane and go overseas, and you may or may not get a diagnosis.
Correct. The other thing that was quite stood out for my mom and this particular doctor is I was quite a small baby. I wasn't premature or anything. I was born full term, but I was very tiny. So that also raised some alarms for them as well. I do have family who are still living. They migrated to the US many years ago, prior I was born. So my parents decided to take me to the US to see if having that family support as well to help navigate, to find the right doctors or pediatric team to help diagnose or get into the bottom of why I was a blue baby. With their help, I was diagnosed with the condition of, just Skype it, atresia ASD VSD. I
Yes.
wanted
Yeah.
with severe pulmonary stenosis. Oh my gosh.
Pulmonary stenosis? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So you've got tricuspid
Atresia,
atresia, you ASD, VSD, so you've got a hole up the top and at the bottom.
Correct.
As well as, did you say stenosis as well?
I do remember seeing pulmonary stenosis in my file. So how I understood it as I read through my medical reports and as an adult is I literally have half a heart. So the right side is defected, primary functions on the left-hand side of things. So I call myself a lot of CHD member communities who have a similar condition as I do. I believe we call ourselves half-hearted warriors because that's the card that we were dealt with. We have half the heart, but double the stamina to get through it.
I would think so. Okay, good to know.
So from there, I had to, with the help of my parents and my family, I had to gain some strength because I was quite little and the doctors didn't want to perform any procedures on me because I was still quite not up for any sort of procedures. As time went on, by the time I was 18 months, that's when I was ready to have my first surgery. During those times, it was called the shot, but as I've learned in the recent years, it's called the Glen now.
Yes.
And I go by having a shark bite on my right side. So it's just a massive scar that you have. It's quite cool. If I call it the shark bite, they're like, wow, you've tackled the shark. I'm like, sure, let's go with that.
I love it. You're like, I have half a heart, but twice the stamina of you because I fought off a shark.
Yeah. But when I ask, I try to make it more interesting and exciting rather than just saying, oh, yes, I have a heart condition. And kind of see the facial expressions kind of drop and be like, okay, all right, let's move it on.
I love it. I'm sure there's going to be people listening going, okay, that's a new spin on things. I might try that. Next time I'm introduced, next time I'll say, hey. So you've left Iran, you've gone because you've got family in the US, you've found the right sort of care, you've got the diagnosis, but they obviously have to plump you up, get you bigger and stronger for the surgery. So your poor mum and dad, my gosh, are they just going, they're just
all over the place. I can't even imagine what they went through. I hear stories, but it's nowhere near what they actually felt, all the emotional and mental roller coasters they had to go through. And I'm an only child, so for them to go above and beyond and sacrifice their life for me, it's amazing. And it is quite special but touching, and it's just a mix of emotions in there.
Definitely.
And after my Glen procedure, this is also, my parents were told that for her, she would require another surgery, which is the Fontan circulation. But this is the part I'm not 100% sure, but I couldn't have the Fontan done in the US. So they referred me, I believe they referred me to a different doctor who was based in the UK who had experience in this particular congenital heart defect.
Yeah, and this procedure, because the Fontan in the scheme of things, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure there's someone who will be able to correct me on this, but I think it's only 30 years old. It would have been, and if you're saying obviously you're an 80s baby, you think about that, it'd be hard for people listening going, hang on a minute, you mean you went from Iran to US to do a procedure and then they couldn't even do the procedure, they sent you to the UK. But I suppose for people with that sort of history listening, the Fontan procedure was very nouveau then, and even so I'm sure the procedure you had is probably a bit different to how they perform.
Of course, yes, definitely. By the time I was 4 years old, I was had, as you said, plumped up, ready, and to have my Fontan circulation surgery at the age of 4 in the UK. Again, throughout this whole, from being diagnosed to up until now, I have quite been lucky and have had the A team that has looked after me with my condition, complex CHD. So I've been lucky in having my doctors and specialists to know who was my cardiologist back when I was little to now. So her name precedes her reputation. So I'm quite blessed. Yes.
Indeed.
Quite blessed. My parents really wanted me to have the best not only the opportunity, but at living, having the best advancements or having the best medical facilities. For me, during the late 80s to the 90s, even though they had to sacrifice a lot, they wanted for me to grow up in a not only a safe environment, but also in a stable environment so I can get the best possible care available. After I had my Fontan circulation, for a short period of time, we went back to Iran for my parents to get their life sorted again, to organize everything before we migrated to Australia. And I've been living here since the late 90s, ever since. Yeah. Again, when I think about it, oh my gosh, it just hits you like a ton of brick wall. But then you're like, wow, I've made it this far. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And obviously having parents that just wanted the absolute best and were willing to literally go to the ends of the earth to give you the best.
Exactly. So,
and now we're blessed with having you in Australia. Do you have much recollection of that time, or is it broken memories? Because how old are you when you get to Australia?
I was around, 10, 11. I think I was around 10 and 11 years old when we moved here. I didn't actually have many health challenges after I had the Fontan procedure till later into my, I'd say, early 20s. I didn't really, for that period of time, I didn't have any challenges. I didn't have any procedures, just regular annual checkups, maybe one angiogram that I had to do when I transitioned to Australia. I had to see Dr. Cooper for him to fully understand what my condition is, just had that done. But after that, I don't recall having any other procedures, surgeries done till much later. And during that time, whether it was in the UK or here, it was never an issue or concern for me that I have a medical condition, yet alone a heart condition. My parents, even though they did tell me that I'm special, I'm unique, and I was born with such a different heart anatomy, I guess, but they never made me feel that I was completely different for the rest of my peers or people around me who were the same age as me. It never really stood out for me in a sense. And I was quite stubborn as a child. So it never bothered me. It never stopped me from doing anything. I never had any restrictions of what activities I could do and not do. Or maybe I was just not into those particular activities where I couldn't do. Yeah, it was never an issue for me. I lived life to the fullest as far as I can tell or remember. In about early 20s, I suffered a severe heart attack. I didn't realize that it was severe till later on when I was reading through medical notes. As an adult, you read through things just to get to know what exactly happened. And sometimes it doesn't hit you. So you're just like, oh, it's nothing. It's something. I
had a thing. No, it was a severe heart attack. Wow. So you're in your 20s at this stage?
Early 20s.
So you've had this beautiful period from when you've arrived to sort of your early mid-20s. And through that period, like you said, you're just living life to the max, enjoying absolutely everything. That must have been, for the want of a better word, a shock to the system because everything had been going along so swimmingly. What had to happen from here? What happened? What were the repercussions of the heart attack?
One of the things I had to start doing was taking bolstered. That was another thing. So prior to having the heart attack, I was never on any kind of medications, maybe aspirin here and there, but it was never on a long-term medication. I don't believe. But after the heart attack happened, I had to be on this for life journey of being on warfarin. Again, when it happened, it didn't really hit me that this is a major thing that it's happened to me. Like, yes, I had a heart attack, but maybe the way my brain understood it, it was just like, oh, it's just this small thing. It's nothing major. It's fine. I'll just recover and get on with life again. Because I never thought about it being because maybe my heart could have caused this or because of the way my heart is. It just never, I guess, didn't occur to me because I never had any issues prior to it. And that's one of the things, whenever something unfortunate happens in my life as an adult, I kind of sit back and trying to rethink how my life is and how to move forward, not to be stuck. So that's when I decided I really, as an adult, I want to move to the US just to see how it is. And I want to work there because life is too short and I don't want this heart attack to stop me from doing what I want to do. I moved to the US. I had the most amazing time of my life. I got to spend time with my relatives who are still in the US, got to travel, met some amazing people during my time. And by the time I was ready to come home or was time to come home, I was still had no issues even when I was overseas traveling. I had no episodes, no difficult, no chest pain, none of that during that whole time. I didn't experience any medical issues. So I thought, oh, this is just one thing that happened. It's fine. Again, I'm living my life. Things are okay. As I settled back home in Sydney, I wanted to do the same thing as I was doing back in the US. I was in hospitality and tourism, so I quite liked the fast pace. I've always liked the fast paced environments. So being in that arena, as I call it, to be interacting with people, being on your feet, on the go, it was this adrenaline for me to just push through. However, when I moved back home, that adrenaline kind of took its toll on me. At least. And the hours that you do in hospitality are quite different in different countries as well. So the stress level, having it in the US, it's quite different to having it in Australia, and the laws and regulations are quite different. So you really need to be following a particular set of rules. And the community just got longer, it took a toll on me. So I had to slowly change directions as where I want to go career-wise. And during that period, I think a part of me was lost. I trying to figure out what I want to do. And that's when it hit me. And I had my first SVT or AF episode. And
okay.
that was probably towards late 20s when it happened. And I thought, oh my gosh, what is this thing that's happening? It's just a one case, one-off thing. Hope it never happens again. But for those who experience AF or any irregular heart rhythms, sometimes they do have to be admitted to a hospital, and they go, instead of having, technically it is a procedure, you are cardioverted to get your heart rate back into regular rhythm. As you've seen it in the movies, you get, oh my gosh, they're going to do the same thing that they do in the movies, because that mental image always pops up initially.
Yeah, no.
They're like, oh, this is so cool because I've seen it, but now it's happening to me.
Now I'm actually here. I'm in it.
After my first episode, everything was fine. But again, I wasn't feeling 100%. I knew there was something, but I didn't know if it was heart related or I'm still trying to transition from what I was doing previously in the US to what I'm doing. So it was suggested to me, or was beneficial for me, I guess, to have an ablation. Because when you have an episode, the first thing they recommend to you is to have an ablation done. I don't want to say I regret this, but I did not want to have an ablation at the time when it was suggested to me. When you're at that age, you don't want things to stop you. Like I said, I've always wanted to do things, push my limit, and not to be different. I always wanted to blend in and just do the things that makes everybody happy. It's not just doing it because you want to, but also it's being part of your peers and seeing what they do and how they are actually thriving. So you kind of, at that age, you kind of want to compare, not so much a competition, but you want to step up and be similar to them. So when the ablation came up, I kind of refused. And I said, no, I'm not broken. I don't want this ablation. So I will wait it out. If I have another episode, then that's when I think about it. Fast forward to almost, I think, 18 months later, my episodes became more frequent. So I was having more hospital admissions and getting cardioverted, adenosine, and I became a hospital frequent flyer rather than a travel frequent flyer.
Yeah, yes.
During that period, it was really difficult mentally, emotionally, physically, because I could never prepare for anything because I never knew when the episode was going to happen. I would make plans and then next minute, well, I actually can't make it. And a few days you're in hospital being treated, and then you're recovering on, oh, I can do this. Actually, no, back to hospital. So there were times that I had maybe 2-3 episodes less than a month from each other. It just
became quite frequent.
It does get traumatizing. Think about it at the time, but it just adds up and you think to yourself, this is not the life I want to have. What is wrong with me? No. That's when it really hit me going, okay, I really do have something that is preventing me to live my life to the fullest. Since then, I've had numerous cardioversions, adenosine administration by IV. I've had a few ablations. Unfortunately, not all have been successful. I've had 2 pacemaker operations. One was to help with the low heart rate, which it did help because my heart rate used to go very low to the point that it went down to 0. And then it would go highest to 300 beats per minute.
Wow.
For them to help at least with the low heart rate, that's when I had my first pacemaker surgery. It was an emergency one to just help. Okay, we can't do anything about the fast heart rate, but let's try to fix the low heart rate.
Let's try and mitigate the low because that's too low, too scary. And
the medication, the beta blockers, that there are different ones, and that actually, because I remember I had to take, as they were happening, the hospital, the doctors just saying, take as you feel it's necessary, because they would prefer medication to do the job rather than you being cardioverted or have other
procedures.
Exactly. Just anything less invasive possible. I guess the first pacemaker happened, then again in between I still had the episodes. It just that fast heart rate wasn't really improving in a sense, the ablations. Oh my gosh, it's just been a full-on 10 years, I would say. It was.
Well, it sounds like the first 10 years of your life sounds so intense. It crossed countries and continents, as I said earlier. And then you had this lovely swim through where you lived every life to the fullest. And then, like you said, this past decade, it just sounds quite overwhelming and quite intense. And am I right in saying your cardiologist is
Prof. Salamak?
Yeah, Salamak.
Prof. Salamak, yes. He's the best. I'm sure his other patients would say the same. We are so lucky to be under his care, to know him and his team, to always look after us and give us the best advice possible. So
definitely, yes. I used to sit on the board with Professor.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, for a couple of years when we first formed HeartKids.
Yes,
so
yes.
I know him well, and he lives for his patients.
I've actually never met any other doctor, regardless of the condition, I've never met any doctor who would go above and beyond for his patient, whether it be on a call or be on an email, just to have another doctor contact him. He's really easily accessible to get when you're having one of those anxiety moments. It's really helpful to have him to look after you.
So, Mahan, I hear you're involved in CH Fit. Can you tell me more about that and how that fits into your busy lifestyle?
Sure. I have been one of the chosen ones, being part of the CH Fit family, where it was, I think, March last year when I got approached. I'm really sorry, this part of it, it's fuzzy from. So if I have these little breaks, it's just I'm trying to remember how I would phrase it.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Oh my gosh. You do your baseline testing day, as they call it. You go in and you meet the team behind a CH Fit. I had the opportunity of meeting with these amazing girls, ladies, I should say, that work with Professor Cordina and Dr. Tran, who is the EP behind the program.
Yes, I've actually interviewed Dr. Tran, so yeah, he's fantastic. I'm a big fan of EPs.
After the baseline testing, you start doing these home exercises with the gym stick that they give you, with the polar monitor that you wear to just, I guess, monitor your heart rate and just see how things are. So for me to actually get started in that program, I was very excited, to be honest, but I was nervous because I hadn't actually exercised for a long period of time at that point. So it was anxiety mixed with excitement. This is one way of moving forward to come out of what I've been through. This is just going to give me the push. I guess it was a blessing in disguise, or that this came into my life. This opportunity was presented to me. So since then, I've done those exercises. I go to the gym. It's been really good. I do boxing.
Wow.
I like being active. It's been really beneficial, not only on the physical health, but on the mental and the emotional side of things. I'm sure others might have a different experience, but for me, it has done wonders, I would say. Just as I said, it brought zest back into my life. Forever grateful for the opportunity.
Would you recommend it? Would you recommend it to those who got an opportunity?
I would 100%. I would 100%. The classes that you do via Zoom with others who are around the country, because not everybody is based in Sydney or at the same location as you are. So you get to actually virtually, but you get to meet other CHDers who are going through a similar journey as you are. You see them at different ages and what path or what stage they're on. You get to have these little chats and connect with them. So I found it very eye-opening because for a long time I thought I was the only one. To actually be able to see someone on the screen is different than just coming across somebody that somebody else mentioned to you. Like, okay, well, fair enough. But no, when you see them and you exchange stories and to hear what their journey's been like, it's just very touching and also makes you know, okay, you're not the only one. There are others like you.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure it's almost a bit cathartic as well, like the whole experience to go, like you said, I'm not the only one. Just on that, Mahan, like your journey has been vast. It's been vast. It's been intense. It's obviously involved the care of different surgeons, different cardiologists, I'm assuming different allied health.
Correct.
Not to mention just the other sort of informal supports that you need and GPs. So what has that been like for you? Because you wanted to travel abroad and there'd be some people listening thinking, oh gosh, she was really brave considering she was so complex to go over and live in America and work. How do you talk about your condition? How do you advocate for yourself with other health professionals? But also too, how do you talk about your condition when you're meeting new people?
It really depends on the setting, especially when you're meeting a new health professional. In the recent years, I would say whenever I needed further consultation regarding a particular medical issue, I did my research. I always wanted to find a doctor who is best fit for me or has a background or is familiar with CHD or is known within that environment.
Mm-hmm.
There were times where I struggled. So I would reach out to my cardiologist or my GP just to find the right doctor for my needs. In that aspect, I've been quite lucky, grateful to have that as their support and having that rapport with those doctors to be able to help me advocate for myself and to be able to communicate that across to a particular health professional. That's been good. In a more of a personal setting or work environment, I only share what is necessary to share. As I've grown or as my health got complex or there were certain issues, not that I would shut myself. It just whenever I felt it was necessary, I would share what it was needed. And if not, I kept it to myself. Because again, this is your own journey, your own health. You want to be comfortable with what you're sharing and who you're sharing it with. For my work, they have been quite accommodating throughout this whole time. We worked on different set of plans to see what work is suited for me, what hours are suited whenever is needed. I can have the time off. And just with this particular employer, I've been quite lucky as well for them to be so understanding, so patient, and just being able to support me and getting through the recovery process and transitioning because I used to work full time. And after surgery, I had to take extended time off from work. And from hearing from others who they've had different medical issues, but they haven't been, I don't want to keep saying lucky, but they haven't had that opportunity from the employer to offer them time off and knowing that once they come back, the job is still secure. Yeah. So for me, has been a big
challenge.
Yeah, exactly. At times where I thought to myself, I really want to move on to something else, but I thought to myself, well, I can't because I don't know. I don't want to take that risk knowing that if I move on, my next employer may not be as accommodating. So It can be frustrating at times because you want to move on and you want to do something better. But at the same time, you're like, no, I got to listen to my body. I need to do what's best for me. Sometimes your career suffers because of, but you got to do what's best for your health.
It's wonderful that you've shared what you've shared, Mahan, because I think you're touching on some things that we don't always sort of talk about. And what you're basically talking about is also to those fundamental things in life that bring you joy, like having a job, having a career, having somewhere where you can be someone else. Because at home we wear different hats. We're a sibling.
It's the facade that I put on. Yeah.
And you get to actually go out into the workforce and be a certain way. But you're right. There's also too, there needs to be that understanding from that employer that you might need extra days off, or it might be a simple procedure that turns complex. It's great that you're even just sharing about this, because there might be some people listening thinking, yeah, can I get back into the workforce? So it's great to see that you have, and you found that happy medium of an employer that respects your health condition and respects you, and obviously clearly values you, because they wouldn't hold the position if they didn't. And also too, touching on what you talked about, I think that's also a really powerful message too, in advocating for yourself within health professionals, doing that forward thinking and that research to understand that once you start, well, you know what it's like when it's so complex. And like you said, by the time you even pronounce half of these things, you're really hoping that on the other end is a health professional going, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about, as opposed to, pardon?
I've had that though. That's the thing. Like I've had that where they're like, oh my gosh, okay, so yeah, we won't touch that.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Moving right along, and she's got a shark bite too, so let's not...
Kinder surprise. I'm a kinder surprise. So sometimes I'm like that just so much. And what I also like to say is having CHD, especially if your symptoms are not shown visible, basically it's an invisible illness. So no matter what you are going through internally with your condition, nobody can see it unless you're talking about it. But I also understand not everybody feels comfortable talking about it, not because they're not advocating for themselves. It's just they're not in that space yet to be comfortable enough to say, hey, this is my condition, this is how I'm feeling. So as you said, you've got to find that balance, the happy medium for yourself before how you want to approach it.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Mahan. I've really enjoyed chat, and I'm not even going to try and recap what you've been through. I think we just all need to hit rewind and listen to it all. But what other words of advice have you got out there for our community, our HeartKids community or the Fontan community? You're a part of so many communities in the scheme of things, your CHFit community. But if there was someone listening tonight as a heart adult facing all these complexities, what would be your piece of advice?
I would say you're not alone. There are others just like you and exactly feel what you're feeling in this moment or how you've been feeling before. Be comfortable to having at least your support group, whether that support group is your family, your friends, or your doctors. Just make sure you have the right support group for you that is best for you to look after you. Because at the end of the day, your health matters, your heart matters, and you need to do what's best for you, not only physically, mentally, emotionally. You really need to listen to what the heart is telling you as well.
Beautiful. That's beautiful, Mahan. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I wish you all the very best. And I just know that you'll be getting every inch out of life that you possibly can.
I do my best when I can. Thank you, Sammy.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Sometimes this podcast talks about some heavy things. If this brings up anything for you or someone you love, it is important to reach out for support. The HeartKids helpline provides support and guidance for anyone impacted by CHD. You can call the helpline on 1800 432 785. To access more information about CHD, as well as support from HeartKids, visit the website at heartkids.org.au. The information on this podcast is not a substitute for medical advice from your doctor or healthcare team. Always talk to your doctor about matters that affect you or your family's health.